Imagine paying $19 billion for a company that makes almost no money. Now imagine that company only has 55 employees, runs 0 advertisements, and its founders actively hate your business model. Wall Street thought Mark Zuckerberg had lost his mind. Facebook investors were furious. Some called it the worst deal in tech history. But 5 years earlier, those same 55 employees had applied for jobs at Facebook and got rejected. Now Zuckerberg was handing them a check bigger than the GDP of Iceland. This wasn't just an acquisition. It was the most calculated, ruthless, and misunderstood power move in Silicon Valley history. And the real reason behind it? It'll change everything you think you know about how tech companies actually make money. This is the story of the most controversial tech acquisition in history. A deal so absurd that Facebook's own investors revolted. A purchase that seemed to defy every rule of business logic. But behind the madness was a calculated bet on something far more valuable than profit. Something that would reshape the entire digital economy. And to understand why Zuckerberg paid the price of a small country for a simple messaging app, we need to go back to where it all began, 2009. 2 men walked out of Yahoo's headquarters for the last time. Brian Acton and Jan Koum had just been rejected for jobs at Facebook. Brian tweeted, "Facebook turned me down. It was a great opportunity to connect with some fantastic people. Looking forward to life's next adventure." Life's next adventure would make Facebook regret that decision more than any company had ever regretted anything. Jan Koum was born in a small village outside Kiev, Ukraine. His childhood home had no electricity or running water. His family immigrated to the United States when he was 16, settling in Mountain View. They lived on food stamps while his mother worked as a babysitter. Jan taught himself computer programming by buying manuals from a used bookstore and returning them when he was done. At 18, he got a job at Ernst & Young as a security tester. That's where he met Brian Acton. Both eventually joined Yahoo, where they spent nearly a decade building infrastructure and dealing with the corporate bureaucracy that slowly suffocates innovation. By 2007, they were burnt out. They quit Yahoo and spent a year traveling South America, playing ultimate frisbee and contemplating their next move. When they returned, they applied to Facebook and Twitter. Both companies rejected them. But Jan Koum noticed something. He just bought an iPhone, and he realized the App Store, which launched in 2008, was about to create an entire industry. He saw a specific opportunity that everyone else was missing. In January 2009, Koum incorporated WhatsApp Inc. The name came from a play on the phrase, "What's up?" He had a simple vision, a better address book that showed statuses next to people's names. No games, no gimmicks, just a clean way to know what your friends were doing. The first version crashed constantly. It was basically useless. Koum was ready to give up and look for another job. But then, Apple released push notifications for iOS in June 2009. Suddenly, users could ping each other through the app. WhatsApp accidentally became a messaging platform, and something incredible happened. It started growing, fast. Brian Acton joined as a co-founder in October 2009, putting in $250,000 of his own money, when 8 other investors, including Sequoia Capital, refused to fund them. Together, they built something completely different from every other tech company in Silicon Valley. No ads, ever. This wasn't a business strategy, it was a religion. Jan Koum grew up in Soviet Ukraine, where the government monitored communications. His childhood was marked by fear of surveillance. When he came to America, he saw companies like Google and Facebook building business models around collecting user data and selling targeted advertising. He hated it. WhatsApp's philosophy was radical. Charge users a tiny fee, keep the service simple, and never ever monetize their data. It was 99 cents per year after the first year free. That was it. In a world of billion-dollar ad platforms, this seemed almost naive. But the approach was brilliant for one critical reason: trust. In countries where governments monitored communications, where data privacy wasn't a luxury but a necessity, WhatsApp became the app you could trust. No data collection meant no data to steal, no information to sell, no surveillance to fear. The app grew organically. There was no marketing budget, no promotional campaigns, no celebrity endorsements. It spread through word of mouth, one user at a time, one country at a time. By 2011, WhatsApp was one of the top 20 apps in the US App Store. By 2012, it was handling 10 billion messages per day. By 2013, it had 200 million active users. And it was doing all of this with less than 50 engineers. No HR department, no sales team, no office managers. The team was lean, focused, and obsessively dedicated to one thing: making the best messaging app in the world. Mark Zuckerberg had a problem. Actually, he had several problems, but one was keeping him up at night. Facebook's growth was slowing. In mature markets, they'd already captured everyone. The next billion users were in developing countries, places where mobile data was expensive, smartphones were lower end, and Facebook's bloated app was too heavy to run smoothly. But there was a bigger issue. Facebook had built its empire on something specific: the social graph, your network of connections. It was the most valuable dataset in tech. Whoever controlled how people connected controlled the future of communication. And WhatsApp was building an even more powerful network. Think about your Facebook friends. How many of them do you actually talk to? Maybe 50? 100? Now, think about WhatsApp. Every single contact is someone you directly communicate with. The engagement was deeper, more intimate, more valuable. WhatsApp wasn't just competing with Facebook Messenger. It was becoming the primary way people communicated on mobile. In countries like Brazil, India, and Spain, WhatsApp wasn't an app. It was infrastructure. It replaced SMS entirely. It replaced phone calls. It replaced email. Facebook had 1,300 employees working on Messenger, and they couldn't catch WhatsApp's 50-person team. The engagement metrics were terrifying for Zuckerberg. WhatsApp users opened the app dozens of times per day. The average session time was longer than any social network. And unlike Facebook, which was starting to see younger users flee to platforms like Snapchat, WhatsApp was growing across all demographics. Then Zuckerberg learned something that made his blood run cold. Google was circling. So was SoftBank. Multiple companies were trying to acquire WhatsApp, and some were offering more than $10 billion. If Google bought WhatsApp, Facebook would lose the messaging war permanently. Google would control search, email, and messaging. Facebook would be boxed in, slowly suffocating, as users spent more time in Google's ecosystem. Zuckerberg made a decision. He would acquire WhatsApp, no matter what it took. But there was a problem. Jan Koum didn't want to sell, and he especially didn't want to sell to Facebook. WhatsApp's entire philosophy was the opposite of Facebook's business model. Facebook made money by collecting data and selling ads. WhatsApp made money by not doing that. Jan Koum had publicly criticized Facebook's approach. He'd posted on his blog, "Remember, when advertising is involved, you, the user, are the product." So Zuckerberg did something clever. He didn't lead with money. He led with respect. In February 2014, Zuckerberg invited Coombe to dinner at his home. No lawyers, no bankers, just two founders talking. Zuckerberg made a promise. WhatsApp would remain independent. No ads, no data sharing. The team would stay intact. They would operate as a separate company within Facebook. It was almost unheard of. Facebook had acquired dozens of companies and immediately absorbed them, shutting down their products or integrating them into Facebook's ecosystem. But for WhatsApp, Zuckerberg was offering complete autonomy. Coombe was skeptical, but Zuckerberg kept pushing. He explained his vision. Facebook wasn't just a social network anymore. It was building a family of apps, each serving a different purpose. Facebook for sharing with friends, Instagram for visual expression, WhatsApp for private communication. And then came the number, $19 billion. To put that in perspective, that's more than Sony, Marriott, or eBay were worth at the time. It was 3 times what Microsoft paid for Skype. It was 6 times what Google paid for YouTube. It was one of the largest tech acquisitions in history. The breakdown was insane. $16 billion in Facebook stock, $3 billion in restricted stock units that would vest over 4 years. And Facebook agreed to pay a $1 billion breakup fee if regulators blocked the deal. For a company that made less than $20 million in revenue the previous year and had virtually no profit, it was completely absurd. Wall Street lost its mind. Facebook's stock dropped. Investors called it the worst deal since AOL Time Warner. Business analysts wrote obituaries for Facebook's fiscal responsibility. One headline read, "Mark Zuckerberg just lit $19 billion on fire." But here's what everyone missed. Zuckerberg wasn't buying revenue. He wasn't buying profit. He was buying something much more valuable. 450 million active users. That's what Facebook got. But the real number was even bigger. WhatsApp was adding 1 million new users every single day. Not through advertising, not through promotions, through pure organic growth. The network effect was accelerating, not slowing down. Zuckerberg had done the math. When you divide 19 billion by 450 million users, you get $42 per user. That sounds expensive, until you realize Facebook's average revenue per user at the time was just over $6 per year. But WhatsApp's users were different. They were mobile first. They were in emerging markets. They were young. They represented the next 2 billion internet users, the people who would never own a desktop computer, but would spend their entire digital lives on a smartphone. Facebook was paying for the future. And there was something else, something more strategic, more ruthless. By acquiring WhatsApp, Facebook eliminated a competitor and prevented Google or anyone else from controlling mobile messaging. In one move, Zuckerberg had secured Facebook's dominance in communication. It was a defensive and offensive play simultaneously. But the acquisition came with a promise: no ads, no data monetization, complete independence. And for a while, Facebook kept that promise. On February 19, 2014, the deal was announced. Jan Koum signed the contract on the door of the welfare office where he used to pick up food stamps. It was his way of remembering where he came from. WhatsApp's 55 employees became overnight millionaires. Brian Acton's share was worth nearly $4 billion. Jan Koum's was worth $7 billion. The guy who got rejected from Facebook became one of the richest people in tech. For 2 years, everything seemed fine. WhatsApp remained independent, kept its philosophy, continued growing. By 2016, it had 1 billion users. By 2017, 1.5 billion. But then the cracks started showing. Facebook wanted to monetize WhatsApp. They wanted to integrate it with Facebook's ad platform. They wanted to share data between apps. They pushed for WhatsApp Business, a platform that would let companies message users, opening the door for commercial use. Jan Koum resisted. This wasn't what he signed up for. This violated everything WhatsApp stood for. In early 2018, Brian Acton left Facebook. He gave up $75 million in unvested stock because he couldn't stomach the direction WhatsApp was heading. He later funded Signal, an encrypted messaging app built on the principles WhatsApp once had. In April 2018, Jan Koum announced he was leaving too. He posted on Facebook, "Ironically, I'm leaving at a time when people are using WhatsApp in more ways than I could have imagined. It's time for me to move on." He walked away from over $1 billion in unvested stock. The founders who built WhatsApp on principles of privacy and independence couldn't survive inside Facebook's ecosystem. The promises made in that February dinner slowly dissolved under pressure from shareholders, investors, and the need to justify a $19 billion price tag. So, was the acquisition worth it? Today, WhatsApp has over 2 billion users. It's the most popular messaging app in more than 100 countries. It handles 100 billion messages per day. It's enabled Facebook to dominate mobile communication in a way no other company can compete with. Facebook never got a competitive bidding war for the next WhatsApp. They eliminated the threat before it became existential. From a pure business perspective, Zuckerberg made the right call. He paid a premium to secure Facebook's future. He prevented competitors from building an unstoppable rival. He acquired the technology and talent that would shape Meta's messaging strategy for the next decade. A cautionary tale about what happens when giants swallow innovators. WhatsApp was built by people who believed technology could be different, could respect privacy, could exist without exploiting users. That vision died inside Facebook's walls. The $19 billion question isn't whether Zuckerberg overpaid. It's whether the future of communication should be controlled by companies whose business model requires monetizing your conversations, your data, your privacy. Jan Koum paid for WhatsApp with his principles. Zuckerberg paid with $19 billion, and we, the users, paid with something else entirely. The real cost of WhatsApp wasn't measured in dollars. It was measured in what we lost when the app that promised to be different became just another asset in the biggest data collection machine ever built. So what do you think? Was Zuckerberg a genius who saved Facebook's future? Or did he destroy what could have been the internet's last hope for private communication? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story showed you a side of tech acquisitions you'd never seen before, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because there are dozens of deals like this happening right now.